All right, folks, good evening. July 1st, 2025. We are talking XRP Linqto. Got a very important update to break down the situation that's taking place with the Linqto platform right now. Very, very unfortunate deal. We're going to run through that. I'm going to take your guys' comments and questions. You guys know me. I'm an open book, completely transparent, and my main concern is protecting the XRP community first and foremost. I want to bring us good community resources, whether that be wallets, exchanges. The platform Linqto was so interesting because it was, on the surface, it seemed like a great noble cause, bringing private equity to non-accredited investors. And you can do so in a way that is compliant with the securities laws. In this deal with Linqto, we have to really understand the facts here before we allow some of these narratives. A lot of finger pointing taking place right now. And so we want to address all of this. But first and foremost, we should understand that there is probably billions of unrealized profit in the companies that are held on the Linqto platform. And so it was a winner. There was one company that ended up going bust, and that was PolySign. I am not aware of any other big losers on the Linqto platform. In fact, they had 8 successful quote unquote exits or companies that ended up going public. So this was a very successful platform, and I believe a noble cause. I've talked about this issue many times about the fact that we shouldn't have an accreditation standard that only allows the best investment opportunities to those who already have a net worth of $1 million, or those who are, high income earners of over $200,000 per year, $300,000 if you're a couple, filing jointly on your taxes. But this accreditation standard keeps out, it literally is gatekeeping the best opportunities for those that already have wealth. And so I thought that Linqto was a noble cause. I've seen others actually raising funds as well for non-accredited. And I believe in this 100%. I believe in, a free American people being able to invest in what they see fit. Why can you take $10,000 to the casino? Nobody blinks an eye or cares. But you can't go invest in really fundamental investments with tremendous upside, like companies like Ripple, companies like Circle, which just went public and has gone up, multiples of where they IPO'd at. We want to be able to democratize finance, investing, and opportunities. That's why we're in crypto. And so, first and foremost, we have to consider that there is actually a lot of money that was made through the platform. And the wrongdoing of a few individuals, I don't think suffices shutting down a platform, declaring bankruptcy, and basically, what we're witnessing right now. The long and the short of it is that this is a hostile takeover. This is a hostile takeover of Linqto, and I believe that this is the most unfortunate part about this situation is that there is such good assets within this company and assets that the customers had exposure to. It appears that all the money is there. At least that's what we heard from John Dean today. There's a bunch of SPVs set up. Did some of it break the securities laws? Some laws probably were broken, it appears. But before we jump to these conclusions and finger pointing on who was to blame, who was wrong, I think that it's very important that we do take a step back and acknowledge what we're here to do. We're here to democratize finance. We're here for a level playing field. That's why we're in crypto. And that's why we're so interested in platforms like Linqto that we're going to help get great exposure, great investments to the non-accredited. I believe that we need to continue fighting for this, for the accreditation standard to be dropped. Maybe Linqto's going belly up, having some issues, and it's going to be a very unfortunate situation it's looking like. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to fight for the little guy, the little gal that doesn't have $1 million net worth, right? And so, first and foremost, I want to clear the air, I guess, on my involvement, which is really limited, right? I did not have Linqto as a sponsor. I never invested in Linqto. And for a short amount of time, I did have an affiliate link for Linqto. Because just like so many others in the community, I thought this was great. Wow, we get exposure here. You guys know the whole story. And so I had my affiliate link. A few people did use that link to access the platform, right? just like I have links down below for exchanges, wallets, other community resources, right? Precious metals, same thing. And so the only involvement that I've ever had with Linqto was having an affiliate link for a short amount of time. And then as soon as I became aware of the issues, I just pulled the plug. Now, I never received a dime of compensation for that. My main interest was just, making people aware of an opportunity. And, really, when you look at this, we cannot blame people for trying to get our community great resources and access to these types of investments. The fact of the matter is, this is private equity. You have to understand the risk that you are taking on. And, I've been talking about due diligence is going to be one of our best skills going forward as the XRP community gets approached for DeFi, for platforms like this, for private equity, right? Of course, we have XRP meme coins and a bunch of silly stuff taking place, right? But we have to understand that this was a noble cause. The platform was legit. Some laws were broken, it appears, but overall, I don't think that the platform was a bad platform. I don't think that this wasn't a successful business. It was very successful. 8 successful exits, 8 successful companies that went public. Billions, from my understanding, there is billions of unrealized gains just in the Ripple equity. Someone mentioned 5 billion of unrealized gains just within the Ripple equity on this platform. So for folks that want to attack and point fingers and blame, you have to understand you're pointing fingers at people that helped get our community access to billions and billions of dollars of unrealized gains. The real fault, in my opinion, falls upon a couple executives and maybe, just a couple people at Linqto that were really driving an aggressive push that did trip up some of the securities laws. Right? You have responsibility that falls on a couple individuals, most likely, maybe one, maybe two. I don't know. But this is not, that this was a bad business. This absolutely was a noble cause, in my opinion. And there's a way to do this that is completely incompliant and completely legal. It looks like it was an executive or two or a few that stretched the bounds, that crossed that line. And in this situation, in my opinion, the best case scenario would be for the new executive team, the new management, to say, yes, there was wrongdoing. Yes, the SEC is involved. The Department of Justice is involved. The best case scenario would be you offer up the guilty. This executive, whatever the deal may be. 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, gals, whoever it is. You offer them up because they're guilty. They're the ones that are to blame. And you offer them up. And you come to a settlement with the SEC and you bring all of the SPVs, all of these entities into compliance. You pay a fine. You reach a settlement agreement with the SEC. You offer up the guilty parties to the Department of Justice. They accept wrongdoing, whatever that may be, however that may shake out. But you don't shut down the platform. You don't declare bankruptcy, right? And you don't, basically what we have now is a hostile takeover. And I'm not worried about folks getting their money back. What I'm concerned about is folks not getting access to the equity in these companies that they thought they were buying. And SPVs is a totally normal thing, totally legal thing if done properly. This all was done, can be done legally, compliant, and properly. And I think it's one of the best things that could be done right now while we wait for the accreditation standard to be dropped. But to me, this falls on maybe 1, 2, or 3, a small handful of individuals at the company that broke the law, that had legal advice that was telling them, hey, you're getting into a little bit of trouble here. You're crossing the line, but they proceeded forward, right? That's who is guilty. And now they are gone, right? And now we have this new CEO coming in who spoke at XRP Las Vegas. John Deaton confronted him. So we have him on the record saying that the money's there, that the SPVs are there, that the equity's there. And so why are we going to bankruptcy just to come into compliance with the securities laws? Why are we hiring Sullivan and Cromwell, the same law firm that handled the FTX bankruptcy and has racked up hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees? Why are we doing this? So there's a lot of questions that are still left unanswered. The long and the short of it is that this is a hostile takeover of a successful company of billions of dollars of unrealized gain. And it's another attack on the XRP community and obviously some customers of the platform that maybe weren't part of the XRP family. But in large part, this platform exploded because of the XRP family. We brought significant money to this platform, hundreds of millions of dollars. And from my understanding, the hundreds of millions of dollars invested has actually turned into billions of dollars of unrealized gains. This is a successful business, a noble cause. If done in a compliant way, there's nothing that breaks the law. But they did. They stretched it, as it appears, right? We're going to see how all of this shakes out. I want to take your guys' comments and questions, but right from the get-go, I did want to address it, and we're going to break this whole situation down here today. An update on what's taking place in the current events, the big beautiful bill, update on XRP, a little bit of a pullback here today. I took advantage of that to enter into some more XRP long positions because the fundamentals couldn't be better. The tailwinds behind us are tremendous. We've already made a bunch of money. We're about to make a bunch more in the XRP community, in the broader cryptocurrency space. We're in the right assets. We're in the right vehicles. Specifically speaking to Linqto, a couple guys skirted the law, stepped over the line. They are the guilty parties. And it's unfortunate that now we have basically corporate raiders, vultures that are coming in to bankrupt this company, basically take control of the assets for themselves. And yes, clients will probably all receive their money back. I'm not worried about folks getting their money back, their initial investment back. But you don't want that back, right? Most of you guys are going to be wanting your shares back. You made great investments in Ripple, Circle, Uphold, and other companies, Kraken. You maybe already made some exits. You already made some exits on a few of those. I know some people that did, right? But it's unfortunate that we have another attack against the XRP community. You dig a little bit deeper, you follow the money, and who's there? Sullivan and Cromwell, the same law firm that Jay Clayton comes from. Jay Clayton worked for Sullivan and Cromwell from about 2000 to 2017. Then he went to go head up the SEC. After he was done with the SEC, he goes back to Sullivan and Cromwell for a brief stint before now, I believe he's taken on something else. Or now he's Southern District in New York. Right. So now what is he, Attorney General, or I forget the position. Trump actually brought him in to the Southern District of New York currently, I believe. But he was at Sullivan and Cromwell before he was the head of the SEC and before he filed the lawsuit against Ripple on his last day in office. And then he goes back to Sullivan and Cromwell after his stint at the SEC. He racked up $7 million for himself in his last year before he went to the SEC. I mean, this guy's cashed out millions in his work at Sullivan and Cromwell. And this is the same firm that's already racked up hundreds of millions of dollars in the FTX bankruptcy. And it's the same law firm that Dan Siciliano and the executives, or some of the executives at Linqto now, have chosen to represent them. This, amongst some of the other facts that we have before us, is why I say this is a hostile takeover of a successful business, of a tremendous amount of equity and unrealized gains within said equity. And it's another attack against the XRP community. It brings me no joy to be covering this tonight. I'm absolutely disgusted by what we've seen. And there really was no way of knowing from the outside. If you weren't involved internally with Linqto, then you would have not had any access to knowing what was going on, right? And I'm speaking up for myself. I'm speaking for many of you that invested in the platform. I mean, you had seasoned veteran lawyers like John Deaton, and I think in his space today, he said that he invested almost $500,000 on Linqto. Many professional investors and tremendously successful people in their own right invested in this platform. So I want to echo, some of the statements that I've heard earlier about not beating yourself up, because there was no access to this. There was no way. In conducting your due diligence, you wouldn't have been able to know that this was taking place. Now, at a certain point, when I did see some of the public marketing of these 506B funds that they were conducting, where you basically you put together an SPV of 35 non-accredited. That's the limit on these 506B funds. And when I started to see some public marketing, I actually took the opportunity to reach out to some people, and I said, hey guys, I've been researching this lately. I've been looking into this because I was looking to invest in this myself. And you're not able to market these funds publicly. And I'm seeing some folks going around sharing this publicly. And so I brought this to their attention. So when I was confronted with evidence of maybe some wrongdoing, I took that opportunity to reach out to people that I knew were working with Linqto. And I said, guys, I think that this is going to get us in some trouble, or get Linqto into some trouble. And so when I finally did see something that where the line had been crossed, I did bring that up to the right people. And I've also shared this privately with my community. Like I said, this is taking a turn for the worst as far as this being a corporate raid, a hostile takeover. I want to go through my update. I want to circle back, and we'll take your guys' comments and questions, and we'll do provide a full breakdown. But I want to be very clear that this was a successful business. There was billions of dollars of profit, unrealized profit and gains sitting there, still sitting there. And it's going to be very unfortunate. There's going to be potentially a long, drawn out and ugly fight. John Deaton described it as a cluster F. I'm not going to say the word, but that's the best description. That's the best way to describe the situation that we now find ourselves in. So you guys can drop your comments and questions down below. I'd be happy to answer them. I want to get through my update because the markets are still moving. We had an opportunity to get in here at a little bit of a discount today with the markets pulling back. So I want to speak to that. And then I do want to get to as much of your comments and questions as possible. I want to answer everything. You guys know me. In an effort of transparency, being an open book, you know where I come from. You know where I stand. You know where I'm biased. You know how I make my money. You know how I lose my money on some of my little trades that I make. I do lose some money from time to time. But I like to keep it open and honest and transparent with you guys always. And so I hope that you appreciate that. And I hope that you appreciate tonight's live show. Let's get right on into it. So I see a super chat from Zeus. It's been an exciting year, folks. Zach, do you believe that Ripple will have another go at trying to lift the injunction after paying their fine? All fun. No, I don't think that they'll have another go at the injunction. I don't think that they're worried about the injunction because they've already restructured how they sell to institutions. If you've been listening to me over the past couple of years, I've been hounding this point because it was a point of FUD that our enemies and haters and trolls would use against us. They would say that Ripple's dumping on us. And I would say, well, that's not possible for Ripple to dump on us because they've only been selling to institutional partners since 2019. So when you come at the XRP community, you better come correct with some facts. But the haters and the trolls and the fudsters like to spin up these stories and these narratives that are completely false. And that was one of them, was that Ripple was dumping on us. And the argument that we used against that was just citing the fact that Ripple hadn't sold programmatically to exchanges since 2019. They've only been selling to institutional partners. So for those that are worried, and this whole story about the injunction has just been laughable to me, because we've been talking about on my show, and many other people have been talking about how they've only been selling to institutions for the past few years. So Ripple's continued selling to institutions during this whole lawsuit. Why? How could this be? With an injunction placed on them? because they've already restructured the contract. So I hope that we can be clear. The injunction's meaningless. All that it, and it's not completely meaningless. All that it stops Ripple from doing is the pre-allocation contracts, options, lockup periods, expectations wrapped within the contracts. None of that can be done, but Ripple doesn't care because they can still sell XRP. It's a direct buy, sell, purchase agreement, just like me and you selling XRP to each other is the same way that Ripple can sell XRP to institutions. So I hope that we're all very clear on this. And I still see people getting confused about this. The injunction does not stop Ripple from selling to institutions at all. It's effectively meaningless and mute because the SEC is not going to enforce it. The SEC is not going to ask the judge to come after them. There's already an agreement between the SEC and Ripple. The SEC and Ripple are working together. There's a very clear understanding. Now, the former SEC under Gary Gensler wanted to up the penalty because they were saying, they cited in the court documents, if you actually took the time to read these documents, which very few people do, then you would know that the SEC wanted to up the penalty because they were citing billions of dollars of sales of XRP that Ripple was doing during the lawsuit after the injunction was placed on them. And the judge denied it. Denied it. Wasn't accepted. The penalty was not increased because those sales were not in front of the judge and because they didn't break the securities laws. Okay. Bob Seeger, thank you for the 5 spot. If you became an accredited investor, would you consider becoming a client of Jake Claver's Digital Wealth Partners firm instead of selling any XRP hypothetically? Yeah, so the thing with Digital Wealth Partners is I'm watching them very closely, right? Watching them very closely. I'm very excited to see, wishing them all the success in their income funds, wishing them all the success in their registered investment advisory firm and their services that they're offering. Personally, I just self-direct, right? So I've had the opportunity to invest on Linqto with Jake. I decided not to, and I'm talking about the private equity deals, right? I've sat out private equity up until now, and for now, I just plan on self-directing all of my funds. So I'm just speaking for myself. I self-direct, right? I trade, I manage all of my investments myself. I run my own business. I basically self-direct every aspect of how I make money, keep money, and invest money, right? Obviously, I like to partner up with people who can bring us great opportunities. And, you know, I had Ripple brought to me at under $30 per share. I passed on the opportunity, and I've just invested in digital assets, self-directing all of those investments myself. So that's me, right? But like I said, with what they're doing, I'm watching closely, and they're at the forefront of really a registered investment advisory firm that's focused on digital assets. So I'm watching closely. Yeah. Now, let's get into the update here, guys. This is, in my opinion, the big reason why the markets were coming down today. Trump saying that he's not thinking about extending the July 9th deadline on the tariffs. And he says that he doubts that we'll have a deal with Japan. So in my opinion, this is what really brought the markets down here today. The big, beautiful bill passed, and that's incredibly inflationary. Great for assets. It's going to be terrible for Main Street. Going to be terrible for inflation. But that's going to be great for those of us that have assets, hard assets and limited supply with tremendous amount of utility. It's going to be beautiful for that. You know, to reference the next tweet that I was going to show you from Fred Krueger, it's big, it's beautiful, it's massive, it's next level, it's gorgeous, but it's money printing to the tune of 3 to 5 trillion being added to our deficit. That's the big, beautiful bill that was passed within the Senate. Now it goes to the House to get passed over there, and then it goes to President Trump's desk for signing. But the market came down today, I believe, because of Trump's comments here that they're not thinking of extending the tariff deadline. And if we don't get trade deals with a lot of these parties, then, the tariffs kick back in. And so it's a big unknown, and the markets don't like uncertainty. So we're getting uncertainty brought back around with the tariff talks and the deadline being on July 9th. If Trump doesn't extend that, it's game on with the tariffs once again. And you guys already saw that, we basically came out and said, we've ended negotiations with Canada. We're coming to hit Canada with tariffs once again because they were going to do the digital tax. Now, they've already lifted that and they want to come back to the table, but we still don't know where we're at with those negotiations. So the uncertainty of the tariff deadline is why the markets came back down today. But was it any really cause of concern? Absolutely not. A very normal and healthy correction. But in regards to the Bitcoin, it really wasn't just Bitcoin. It was the crypto tax amendment in the Big Beautiful Bill. We did not get that. This is one of the top sets of issues we've been advocating for. Maybe we get it in a new bill or we take another swing in the next year's budget, but we'll get it done. And this is David Bailey, chairman of Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin Conference, thanking Senator Loomis for her leadership, which I completely disagree with. I think that Senator Cynthia Loomis is part of the reason to blame for why we didn't get this included in the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, this was language that I guess was only going to be for payments of less than $600 would be tax-free on crypto. Instead of that, I think that we need to move, just like Texas just announced a few days ago, making gold and silver legal tender, many other states joining the party and making precious metals legal tender. I think that we need to move forward to making digital assets legal tender, right? Digital currencies legal tender. Removing capital gains completely on these assets and treating them as legal tender is the move, not just getting a exemption for payments under $600. And we need to stop relying on Senator Cynthia Pump Up Bitcoin Loomis, because I think that she's actually done a disservice to our industry. I've been very displeased with how Senator Loomis has represented the cryptocurrency industry, because she hasn't been representing the cryptocurrency industry. She's been representing Bitcoin in the Bitcoin industry. And I think there's been a tremendous disservice. I've been very displeased with what I've seen from Senator Cynthia Loomis, to say the least. But the Big Beautiful Bill passed in the Senate. It goes to the House. It's so bullish for asset prices. It's terrible for Main Street. It's terrible for inflation. So please position yourself correctly. In the meantime, where should you be positioning yourself? I am getting into assets that are about to have spot ETFs go live and that are having basket ETFs go live as we speak. Today, the SEC approves Grayscale Digital Large Cap ETF. XRP, Solana, and Cardano will now be available in the 33 Act ETF wrapper. These basket ETFs are going to be wildly successful, in my opinion. The SEC also provided additional clarity on disclosures and registrations of crypto ETFs, which basically streamlines the process for getting crypto ETFs approved. Instead of all this, gray clouds over our industry and how do we get an ETF approved and should you do this and not do this? How's the approach? Now we're finally getting a set of guidelines, disclosures, and registrations for crypto ETFs, giving us the rules of the road for more ETFs to come. The ETF summer for crypto is here. Where is all of this heading? Nate Garassi says individual spot XRP, Solana, Cardano ETFs up next. And these basket ETFs, similar to the spot ETFs, will be physically backed by the underlying asset. So unlike the futures contracts, the futures ETFs, those are physically, not physically settled. Those are settled with cash. But the basket and the spot ETFs, those are physically backed. So the more of these that go live, the more inflows that we see, the higher these prices are going to go up. It's just very simple. 15 days of straight inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETFs to the tune of 5 billion. Not 5 billion this year. That's 5 billion over the past 15 trading days. Now, JP Morgan predicts 4 to 8 billion of inflows into the spot XRP ETFs year one. I think it's conservative. I think we see 10 to 20 billion year one. And I think that takes us to a $10, $20, $30 XRP with ease. But the first day of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, we saw 4 billion of inflows day one. Now, in the past 15 days, we've seen 5 billion. Nothing but 15 days in a row of straight inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. Now, once again, is this a level playing field where Bitcoin gets the first mover advantage having their spot ETFs live? Meanwhile, we're still waiting for XRP. Bitcoin ETFs live, Ethereum ETFs live, basket ETFs. We finally get some exposure to a spot XRP ETF through a basket product that includes other pieces of crap like Cardano and Solana. No offense. No offense. A rising tide lifts all boats. So I should be cheering, and I am cheering. This is something to celebrate. But I'm just noting the fact that we're still not on a level playing field where XRP has the opportunity to have 15 days of straight inflows to the tune of 5 billion, which based off of my calculations would move XRP well into the double digits with ease. If we had 15 days of straight inflows into the XRP ETFs to the tune of 5 billion, we're not at a $2, $3, $4, $5 XRP. It's not even close. It's a $10, $20 XRP. Understand what comes next. This is massive. The crypto ETF summer is here. Quick update on the June monthly independent attestation of ROUSD from Ripple and the CEO of Standard Custody, SVP at Ripple, that's Jack McDonald. This is the update. ROUSD market cap reached a new milestone of 440 million and growing. Ripple's USD is now recognized crypto token under the DFSA in Dubai. They did launch a new partner with Alchemy Pay to continue extending the utility of ROUSD, which I do want to correct myself because when this quote-unquote partnership was announced, I was hesitant to really celebrate this one because I saw Alchemy Pay pumping up this and sharing this news. But I said, wait, all they've done is integrated ROUSD. Is this a real partnership? But now that Ripple has confirmed and Jack McDonald is calling this a real partner and extending the utility of ROUSD to Alchemy Pay, then I'll accept that. Now, I still don't own the ACH token. Alchemy Pay, that's their token for their network, ACH. I don't own it. I'm not invested. I know some people in the community have been asking me about it. I need to do a deep dive on the project, but I have not taken the time yet to do that, and I have not invested with them. But I did want to correct myself because I was waiting to see whether or not Ripple confirmed this partnership. They have, so that's good. More utility, more exposure for ROUSD. We love to see it. But Ripple released a full report. It is available right here. But we're already approaching $500 million market cap for ROUSD. And with the stablecoin legislation going live, I believe that that's going to set up the environment for ROUSD to really leap ahead. We're now hearing reports that ROUSD is doing 10 billion volume per day. And so it's on track to do trillions of dollars of volume on the year already. So we're on track to not just surpass Tether, but dominate the other incumbents in the stablecoin space. And I've said this before. I think that the only real competition for ROUSD would be stablecoins issued by central banks or other large commercial banks. The problem with that is that nobody trusts the central banks and the commercial banks, right? So nobody trusts JP Morgan. Nobody trusts Bank of America. Nobody trusts the central banks. And even if they do go that route, most of them are actually tokenizing their stablecoins and CBDCs on the XRP ledger. So even in being competition, if they integrate an issue on the XRP ledger, then it just brings more liquidity to the XRP ledger. So you have ROUSD right next to Bank of America coin and JP Morgan coin right on the XRP ledger. In CBDC for this country or that country or dozens of countries on the XRP ledger. Ripple's laid out the blueprint for tokenizing real-world assets, including stablecoins, on the XRP ledger. And so they have gone to all of their central bank, commercial bank, and institutional partners and showed them that blueprint. So whether you want to tokenize gold, real estate, or a stablecoin, a currency on the XRP ledger, they have the blueprint, the model, and they have the custody solution now to provide full service in doing so. It's a one-stop shop for the internet of value. That's what happens when you start working with Ripple. You have a one-stop shop for the internet of value. That's what this is. Ask wifey to hurry up with adult bevy. I did bring one. I did bring one. Thank you. I did pour myself up a strong one here tonight. Now, continuing on, one more data point, and then we're going to go back into the Linqto update. This is XR Punky. He says, XRP looks primed. Weekly candle broke out of the chart on XRP BTC falling wedge pattern that we have been in since December. XRP could potentially do a 370% move to the next major resistance and take profit zone on the chart, which is roughly at about $10. So despite today's pullback, despite folks not understanding why we're not pumping to the moon already, despite Brad Garlinghouse saying that they're dropping the appeal and the SEC is dropping their appeal, I noted in my latest video, and I explained that the masses still don't have any clue about the company Ripple, about the asset XRP, or the fact that it was even tied up in a lawsuit. They don't even know about that. So you ask yourself, why isn't this thing pumped yet? Well, you have a small group, literally, millions of people, maybe 10 million people. I mean, there's a small group in crypto Twitter, in crypto TikTok, in YouTube that actually is paying attention to the Ripple lawsuit, right? By the time the masses wake up, I believe that the institutions will have their ETFs ready to go. And so the financial advisors will be calling these, Joe Blow sitting on the lazy boy who doesn't know what his 401k is even invested in. But when he gets his call from the financial advisor with a new exciting opportunity to invest in a new fintech startup out of San Francisco that's going to put a dent in the universe, Ripple, and the native asset XRP through the ETF product, Joe Blow is going to be sold on that. And this is where billions upon tens of billions of inflows will come from, on top of the institutional adoption that comes now that laws and regulation in this lawsuit will all be behind us. But the structure is still intact from a technical standpoint. You combine it with the fundamentals, you combine it with the lawsuit being over. The masses, they need their hand held. They need their hand held. They need CNBC, Fox Business, or CNN to break it down for them. They need their financial advisor to hold their hand. And they're going to come in after this asset's already done another 370% up here, $10 and beyond. This is, on the way for XRP. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Okay? So that's the good. Now we get into the bad and we get into the ugly. And I do want to take your guys' comments and questions. I see a couple super chats have come in here. Let me get caught up on that. Bully Wonka, thank you for the 5 spot. How much of this price action do you think is actual suppression versus slow government bureaucracy? It's a combination of the two, I would say. Laws and regulations still aren't set. That's a holdup. But I do believe that we move before laws and regulations get passed. So I wouldn't just be sitting here thinking, hey, I can just, not pay attention or not have exposure, because I think that we get a run up in these assets before the laws and the regulations get passed. And so I would make sure that you consider that when you're looking over whether or not you should be invested in XRP and some of these other utility assets based in America. They're going to continue to lead this bull run, and they're going to pump before the legislation gets passed, and I think that they'll continue to pump after the legislation gets passed. So please prepare yourself accordingly for that. Suppression, sure, there's some suppression. There's also there's an order book that needs to be filled with buy orders. And they're just not showing up yet at scale because the masses don't understand what's happening. They don't know. They're distracted. And even the XRP community is in a state of disbelief. The XRP community is on edge. We potentially are in the middle of a hostile takeover that's going to take over billions of dollars of unrealized gains on assets that we had exposure to. So the XRP community is in disbelief. The XRP community is pissed off. You combine that with the masses, which are distracted, which are tapped out, which has the largest, highest credit balances in the history of our country. This is why we're not seeing tremendous inflows, on top of the fact that the ETFs aren't live. The avenue, the road, the on-ramp to this space is not available for most people that are going to get access to 401ks, retirement accounts, through their financial advisor making the move for them. So it's a combination of government bureaucracy, suppression, lack of laws and regulations, lack of people being aware of the opportunity. And that's why I show up every single day, is because the only thing that you're going to hear me shilling is what I believe in myself. You're only going to see me shilling what I have absolutely no shame in talking about, because I believe in it. I put my money behind it. Sometimes I take L's. I don't win them all, but I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit when we lost. But overwhelmingly, we are winning right now when it comes to those bets that we are making. And so we're going to continue to show up every single day, spreading the word to get more and more people aware of the opportunity. I don't tell people to buy, sell, when to buy, what to buy. I don't tell that. I just explain what I am doing. And I have no shame in doing so. Charles Brewer, thank you for the 10 spot. I appreciate that, Charles. Short Rambo, thank you. My XLM trade is down. Not financial advice, but is it going down more? Sellers are exhausted. Those that are selling are exhausted. So as long as we don't get black swan, I don't think that we're going back below $2 for XRP. I can take a quick look at XLM. It's at 22 cents. Yeah, I mean, you got big support for XLM at 20 cents. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think that XLM is still on track to go to $2 at least this bull run. And this is why I'm so excited about the opportunity in front of us. You can buy XLM at 22 cents right now and sell that sucker at $2 later this bull run and net yourself a 10 bagger. Yeah, and I'm looking across the board at all of these utility assets that are based in America. I see nothing but 5 and 10x opportunities in front of us. So let the masses be distracted. Let those in disbelief be overtaken by FUD and misinformation. We try to do our best. You can lead a horse to water. You know how the saying goes. And we're just going to continue to buy. I loaded up on XRP longs today. I told my Discord group first thing this morning where I had my orders set. I set orders. They were all filled today. That's what we do. We just sit back, watch this unfold, and if they want to keep on suppressing it and giving us opportunities to buy these assets before they do 5 and 10x, God bless it. God bless the opportunity. Put it in the bag, please. Thank you very much. And then we move long-term holdings off to cold storage, and we keep assets on our trusted partner platforms that we want to trade. It's a very simple strategy, and it's going to be an incredible bull run, not just for XRP, but XLM and some of these other utility assets based in America. Now, some of this other crap, 99% of this crap out here, there's a reason why I don't have, more than a dozen cryptos or any serious position in more than a dozen cryptos. I don't, because I don't think that this is a everybody wins alt season. This is not a gather round, sing kumbaya alt season. Piece of crap chains deserve to go to zero, which is their fundamental value. So we're going to go into price discovery. Some assets are going to go into price discovery in terms of new all-time highs. Some assets are going to go into price discovery in terms of breaking down and not experiencing an alt season. So that's where I'm positioned right now. Okay? Another super chat came in here from Ben. Thank you. Got my order, Zach. Thanks for the hat, brother. You bet. You bet, guys. Yeah, all of the XRP family merch is available at my shop. We had a crazy last month when we did that big giveaway and everything, so I was just letting the team catch up. I haven't really been pushing the merch as of late, but we're about to roll out some new stuff, and we're going to be having a lot of fun with that. Yeah. But I appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much. Now, I wish I could be saying cheers, but this is not a cheers situation, but let's take a sip of our adult beverage or whatever else you guys are enjoying here tonight. I appreciate you guys for stopping by the show. If you guys haven't already, let's make sure that we like it. Let's share it out far and wide. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's address this Linqto situation, okay? So this is the memo that Rob Cunningham has put out. He's put together a group called Free Linqto, and he directs this memo to all Linqto customers in the XRP army from Free Linqto. He says, to DLT, digital assets, sound money, decentralization, sovereignty, wealth, and true justice fans in America and the world over, current Linqto events touch on everything we care about. The difference between freedom and slavery is knowledge versus ignorance. And boy, am I seeing a lot of ignorance being shared. A lot of folks quick to jump the gun, pointing fingers in the wrong direction. I've seen a lot of ignorance out here today. We have truth, decency, common law, authority, agency, jurisdiction, and merit on the side of the innocent, hardworking Linqto customers and SPV unit holders. And I should add once again, unit holders of billions of dollars of unrealized gain and what should be profit to these customers. No combination of fiat statues, bar-affiliated maritime admiralty law elitists might believe in giving them any right to help us by destroying our personal property and wealth. Please read this latest update and share with all who are seeking solutions. And so, I'm going to go to this press release. This is a memo to all Linqto customers and the XRP army from Free Linqto. And what it addresses is this Wall Street Journal article that was put out this morning. That was an absolute hit piece, in my opinion, that touches on legitimate concerns and probably laws that were broken, but then stretches it over that line of what is a respectable journalist obligation of reporting the truth, and took it to a matter of almost slandering what was a successful idea. A company that was also successful. Thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of investors from hundreds of countries that made great investments. And that was really tarnished and slandered within this article, which I believe was an absolute hit piece from the Wall Street Journal, that stretched the line of reporting on an unfortunate situation and took it to the extent of making Ripple investors look foolish, of citing an email list that Linqto purchased that, had some clients from Iran and North Korea. And they tried to say, that Linqto was, they basically painted it as Linqto was selling to sanctioned countries and individuals from sanctioned countries, which was absolutely not true. Later in the article, they actually clarify that after they run with a big headline on, customers from Iran and North Korea. And so it's the same talking points that the fake mainstream media has used time and time again. Now, once again, this is a legitimate problem, an absolute cluster, what, as John Dean called it. But the opportunistic media and influencers are taking this opportunity to jump on top of this, to bring back attention to their narcissistic selves. I'm not going to name names, but it's absolutely shameful, disgusting, and immature. And from a journalistic standpoint, I wouldn't expect anything else from the Wall Street Journal. Let me read off this press release from Rob Cunningham in the Free Linqto group. It says, a recent article in the Wall Street Journal paints an unfairly negative picture of the Linqto platform. Not surprisingly, it has left many of Linqto's customers with the impression that our money has been lost or stolen. This is not the case. Linqto was founded with the mission of democratizing the private equity market, a mission at odds with and anathema to the designs and desires of the mainstream media and vested financial interests that support it. Remember, Gary Gensler, his desire was to take accreditation standard from $1 million net worth to $10 million net worth, because you are peasants in the eyes of these elitists and you should not be allowed to have these opportunities. Once again, this was a noble cause. And I believe that it's a cause we're still fighting for. Just like Byron Donalds, one of our congressmen, has stated that he believes that we should drop the accreditation standard. Yes, please. This is America, for crying out loud. Get the hell out of our way. Telling us what we can and can't invest in, but we can take as much money as we freaking want to the casino. It's an absolute joke. I personally have taken thousands and thousands of dollars to freaking meme coins on the XRP ledger. Gotten a little lucky. But I can do that, but we're not allowed to invest in private equity. The Wall Street Journal article inflated the bad and ignored the good. That's what it did, 100%. The article fails to inform readers that outside auditors have examined Linqto's records and confirmed that all current customers' assets are secure and accounted for. The article fails to mention that at least 2 board members have accused the new leadership team of mismanagement. And I was listening to Rob Cunningham in the space today with John Deaton, and he said that these 2 board members actually resigned because they were so fed up with being overridden by the other board members that weren't letting them speak. They were already outnumbered. Basically, the votes were going 4-3. And these 2 board members were so disgusted being cut out that they actually left and have resigned. So now it's completely slated 4-1 at the board vote. The article fails to mention that at least 2 board members have accused the new leadership team of mismanagement. Linqto has generated over $700 million in gains for its customers. That's conservative. Billions of unrealized gains on this platform. This was a tremendous success. Tremendous success. Linqto has already delivered more than 10 successful exits to investors. Linqto operated for 15 years, during which it was in good standing with authorities. Linqto has low minimums compared with its competitors and no carrying fees or exit fees. So it's, Linqto was not charging the traditional 2 and 20 model, right? 2% management fee, 20% on the upside. That's the standard in fund management, is the 2 and 20 model. 2% management, 20% of the upside. That's the standard. Linqto is not charging that. Was there wrongdoing? It looks to be the case. Excessive markups, bringing in non-accredited in ways that maybe have broke the law too. A couple of violations were committed. But this idea, noble cause. This company, massive success. Most of the investments on this platform, major success. The only one that I know of that was a failure was PolySign. But for crying out loud, if you're batting, the batting average of Linqto and the opportunities that they've brought to their platform and the opportunities that their clients took advantage of, in the world of private equity, this is the best batting average ever seen. That I'm aware of. PolySign was the only one that went under. Linqto's new management is the problem, not the platform itself. Current CEO Dan Siciliano is also CEO and co-founder of rival fintech platform Nickel. Dan's hand-picked management team at Linqto all came over with him from Nickel and all still list Nickel as their employer on Linqto. Since assuming control, Dan and his team have terminated 70% of the workforce and fired senior executives, shut down all revenue-generating operations, spent millions of Linqto funds within months, reducing company liquidity while maintaining a burn rate of millions per month, failed to deliver required financials to FINRA, leading to the suspension of Linqto's broker-dealer operations, prevented investors from withdrawing funds from the platform, a potential violation of banking regulations. A hostile takeover uncovered. Let's continue. Current management appears to be executing a strategy to exhaust Linqto resources, force a Chapter 11 filing, and acquire Linqto's assets, particularly customer-held Ripple SVVs via nickel. They're coming for the shares in these startup opportunities, many of them probably going to be big unicorns. I mean, you're seeing the tremendous success of Circle right now. That's one company that has been on Linqto. And I mean, even John Dean, he said that he invested $40,000 in Circle, and that is now worth over $100,000. It's a tremendous upside on that. And I might not have the numbers correct on that, but I believe he said, he's at over six figures in unrealized profit on his Circle investment. Current CEO Dan Siciliano forces investors to sign NDAs so they can't discuss his maneuvering. Quick point on that. I see a lot of people attacking digital asset investor and Brad Kimes. You have to understand, these guys, just like so many of us, were trying to bring an opportunity to the community, a very successful opportunity, a great opportunity, in my opinion. Some bad actors are the ones who tainted this and ruined this. And I believe that they are under NDAs, and so they cannot speak on these issues. A lot of people I've seen have been asking, why are these guys silent on the issue? I believe that they haven't been in a position to speak on it. I did see Brad Kimes was in the space with John Deaton today. I did see that he, tweeted out, even John commented that both DAI and Brad Kimes have invested over six figures themselves on the platform. It's a shameful lie for anybody to come out and say that they didn't think that this was a great deal and a great opportunity. Across the board, it was. And if they would have just stayed in compliance within the law, we'd all be winners here. Everybody invested, all these customers would be tremendous winners had it been not for just a couple, maybe one, maybe two or three executives and people within Linqto that tainted this company and the great opportunity that it was. So this CEO, he's making people sign NDAs so that people can't speak on this, which is also adding fuel to the fire. Siciliano refuses to have two-way communication calls with investors and concerned parties. He makes people submit questions in advance and selectively chooses which ones to answer. Siciliano has made very negative comments about Linqto in the press and at town hall meetings. Siciliano repeatedly misrepresented the regulatory landscape to justify operational paralysis, citing SEC restrictions that do not exist. Siciliano hired multiple attorneys from Sullivan and Cromwell, including bankruptcy specialists. It's almost as if this has been the plan all along. Sullivan and Cromwell previously represented FTX during its collapse. Sullivan and Cromwell profited substantially from FTX bankruptcy process. I was speaking with Jimmy Valley today. And I thank Jimmy for being a great dear friend, but a personal advisor of mine that helped me understand the opportunity at Linqto and other private equity opportunities that I've considered. Jimmy shared with me how much Sullivan and Cromwell has profited off of FTX. It's absurd. You've never seen anything like it, even in the legal world. What they did in FTX, they put on a clinic in how to drain out as much money as possible in a bankruptcy process. It's a legal clinic that will be studied for decades to come by law firms. Law firms to follow will be looking at this as an example of how to absolutely drain as much money, extract as much money as possible out of a bankruptcy process. That's Sullivan and Cromwell. I got my TikTok live going on my phone. I'd read you off the numbers. It's staggering. Hundreds of millions of dollars in the FTX bankruptcy is how much Sullivan and Cromwell has charged. I forgot. Jimmy sent me the numbers on the first 9 days, the first 2 weeks. They billed just, I don't have the numbers in front of me, which is just an absurd amount. They put, was it thousands of lawyers on this case, billing at $1,500 to over $2,000 per hour. I'm telling you, this will be studied for decades to come in the legal world, how Sullivan and Cromwell was able to extract so much in this bankruptcy process. And Dan Siciliano handpicked this firm to represent them as they came in to Linqto, a company that has no debt, has no creditors, had no problems other than they had broken some of the securities laws, potentially, allegedly. We'll see how it shakes out. Why would you come into a company with no debt, no creditors, and hire bankruptcy lawyers right from the get-go? From Jay Clayton's law firm. This has come full circle in a way that's so disgusting, unbelievable. You only get stories like this in the movies, or so we thought, and now we're living it out in real life. Sullivan and Cromwell employs attorneys with known involvement in aggressive enforcement cases like Jay Clayton's lawsuit against Ripple. Siciliano's legal maneuvering appears to be designed to drain Linqto's remaining funds under the guise of compliance, degrade the Linqto brand to justify collapse, construct a bankruptcy that positions nickel to absorb customer assets at distressed prices. Bankruptcy is not the answer. Linqto does not meet standard bankruptcy thresholds. Bankruptcy will not guarantee the safety of Linqto customers' investments. Right? When you put this into the hands of a judge, it's however that judge feels. Bankruptcy plays straight into Siciliano's apparent attempt to engineer Linqto's destruction. Many of us bought Circle shares at a cost of around $40 per share. It is trading today at $189 per share. That's just one of many examples. Former management would have given us our investment shares after the lockup period. Current management may seek to make us creditors through bankruptcy so they can negotiate what we receive. There is no need for bankruptcy. Just give us our shares. A recent article in the Wall Street Journal paints an unfairly negative picture of the Linqto platform. Yeah, it looks like, that's the end of the memo right there. So in summary, what looks like is happening, and this is the worst case scenario, this is the absolute worst case scenario, is it looks like they're taking it to the path of bankruptcy. Like I said, I'm not worried about people getting their money back. Accredited, non-accredited, if it goes to bankruptcy, you may get your shares for the company Circle because they've already gone public. Right? That would be great to see, but it's not guaranteed. It will be put in front of a judge. The other thing that John Deaton was running through in today's spaces, and I encourage everybody to go listen to John Deaton's space. It was recorded today. Just go to John Deaton's profile, and if you are interested in the matter, go to his profile, listen to the space completely, because he goes through all of the different scenarios and considerations, and he talks about how ugly this could get. And I want to echo one thing that he did say. The enemy of the customers and the people invested in this platform is division. And that's where, that's what comes about from a bankruptcy process, because you're going to have investors that invested in PolySign that want rescission. So they're going to vote for rescission to get their money back because PolySign was a dud and it went to zero. Meanwhile, you're going to have investors in Circle. They're going to be begging to get their shares back. And so this is when you get a contested vote between the parties in receivership of the bankruptcy process who will be voting on these matters. But you can see how this gets divisive pretty quickly when you got people that invested in PolySign that just want their money back. When you got people that invested in Circle that just want their shares. When you got people that invested in Ripple that just, want their shares back. But the process that this new CEO and executive team and board is now taking Linqto is a path of bankruptcy where it gets put into the hands of a judge, where Sullivan and Cromwell will make tens of millions, if not more than $100 million in legal fees in this process. Clients will be left receiving the money that they invested into the platform and not receiving the collective billions of dollars of unrealized profit that they own in the shares of the SPVs that they were taking part in. This is the worst case scenario. And it looks to be the path that they are directly taking Linqto and its clients and customers down. This article right here shows you Jay Clayton, SEC chair nominee, pulled in $7 million from Sullivan and Cromwell last year. This is Jay Clayton's law firm. In his last year before he went to the SEC, he brought in $7 million at Sullivan and Cromwell. I am disgusted by how much our community has been attacked. Whether it's been the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, whether it's been the misinformation and disinformation against XRP, whether it be the slander and defamation that was thrown at me and Jimmy Valley and others when we tried to defend our community. When it comes to this whole Linqto situation, I am disgusted with the attacks against the XRP community. Our community is full of good, hardworking people that invested their life savings into quality assets that have already appreciated significantly with tremendously more upside to come. This party is so far from being over when it comes to XRP, when it comes to Ripple shares, when it comes to even Circle. You've already seen that run up. And to have us having to live through and go through another attack by the same group, this comes full circle. And really, I'm disgusted by the current state of our capital markets, the regulators that oversee and are supposed to protect investors, the lack of their faithful allegiance to the law, acting arbitrary and capricious, being sanctioned by judges in courts, having to be fired and let go from the SEC in shame for their actions. All of this against a small little community. Why us? If we're just excuse my French, guys, excuse my French, but if XRP is just another shit coin that doesn't mean a damn thing, why are we constantly under attack? Whether it just be lies and misinformation, FUD campaigns, paid disinformation agents, lawsuits that drag on for 4.5 years, lawsuits that get appealed 5 days before Gary Gensler gets fired. I know he resigned, but he resigned in shame before he got fired. So I say that he got fired because President Trump said he was going to fire him. If XRP was just some other random asset, would we be getting attacked like this? Somebody says it's part of the shakeout. Lewis, I agree 100%. That's the point that I'm getting at, right? 100%. That's exactly what I'm getting at. And my final point is that I'm disgusted. I'm absolutely disgusted by the fact that some of our regulators, like Gary Gensler and others, would like to see our accreditation standard taken to 10 million, locking out even more people from these great opportunities like the ones that we were taking advantage of on the Linqto platform. Once again, noble cause, successful business, many successful investments. The only one that was bad that I'm aware of was PolySign. Was there any other losers on PolySign? Can somebody in the chat let me know? Was there any other losers besides PolySign on Linqto? Because I'm not aware of any. Otherwise, it was a noble cause, successful business, and many successful investments. Many investments that we took a lot of crap for investing in. But we did our research. The fundamentals were there. These are great businesses, startups that we jumped on. And yet again, we find ourselves in the middle of another attack with the same entities that have already been attacking us. And we get this new group of corporate raiders, of vultures that come in and think that they're going to be able to just return clients' money and take all of the upside for themselves. I still can't believe that the CEO of Linqto showed up to XRP Las Vegas. I still can't believe that he actually did that with what's going on, because I told you guys leading up to XRP Las Vegas that I saw that and I thought, okay, this is a good sign. If he's willing to show up at XRP Las Vegas in front of over 1,000 people and give us an update on Linqto, that's got to be a good sign. And he told us, your money's there. The SPVs and the assets are there. The equity's there. So why are you taking us down this path of bankruptcy where we open this up to basically you taking all of the good assets and giving us back our money, which at this point would be pennies on the dollar that we are deserving of? Lost trust in our justice system a bit too. And that's one other thing that I wanted to mention, is it disgusts me that the way that our securities world and our capital markets world works is that you basically have to pay to play, no matter how you look at it. You know, you look at like companies like Tesla that had to, settle up with the SEC. You look at companies like Ripple that are having to pay to play. And then even if you want to do things the proper, like, and not that Ripple wasn't trying to do things the proper way, they were. But to do things the proper way, you have to basically go to these big white shoe law firms like Sullivan and Cromwell and basically sell your soul to them and let them charge you $2,000 per hour. And I was talking with Sal Gaberte from Tucrium. It cost millions of dollars to just have an ETF. And so, like I said, this is a noble cause. We need to be moving in the direction of democratizing finance. And just because one or a few bad apples at Linqto blew up this opportunity does not mean that we should not continue fighting this cause. This is a cause that I really believe in. As someone who self-directs all of my investments, I come from nothing. I come from a hand-me-down pickup truck and a work ethic that was passed down to me. That's what I come from. To have the opportunity to invest in this, I thought was the greatest thing ever. The opportunity to get rid of the accreditation standard and open this up for even more people, I think is a great cause. And just because Linqto screwed up their deal does not mean that I'm not going to continue fighting this cause. And I don't think that others shouldn't do the same thing. It's a messed up system where you have to go to the white shoe law firms like Sullivan and Cromwell, and basically you have to sell your soul to a Sullivan and Cromwell firm and the SEC just so that you can run a business, bring an opportunity to the market. It shouldn't be like that. Shouldn't be like that. Now, I want to catch up on your guys' comments and questions before I continue with the update, because I see you guys have been asking a couple questions, but let me share this real quick. Camden says Linqto gave small investors a shot. Low minimums, real access, no 2 and 20. And that's the standard model, like I said, for funds, is that you get 2% management fee, 20% upside. Linqto wasn't charging that. Linqto wasn't charging that, right? Margins covered operations, returns went to the people. It was a straightforward model. They could have charged like the rest. 2 and 20, the old gatekeeper game. Instead, they let retail in. Access over excess. A model built to democratize, not drain. But that story isn't told because truth is oftentimes quiet. Narratives roar. And this Wall Street Journal article, a weapon disguised as reporting. Cover fire for what they're attempting to do. History won't be kind to Dan Siciliano or to those who have enabled his agenda, and that includes Wall Street Journal. That includes a bunch of narcissistic influencers that have jumped on this opportunity to make it about them. Oh, see, I told you so. I told you so. I'm going to reserve my comments about these narcissistic influencers. I'm going to reserve my comments because I could tell you the truth about some of these folks. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to choose the high ground, even though they are choosing to, instead of being of concern of the clients, to take the opportunity to point fingers and say, I told you so. I'm the influencer that was right. I'm going to leave it at that. From the Wall Street Journal to these narcissistic influencers, they are not helping the cause. They are driving narratives that are not based in facts, that are not recognizing the success of the platform and the investments that our community made. And the reason why I want to echo that is because on John D in Space, a gentleman joined at the very end who shared his story about, I'm going to be careful because I don't want to get in trouble, contemplating, I don't know how to word this, contemplating the end for himself. You guys know what I'm getting at. He came on, you could hear the emotion in his voice, talking about how he did this all for his family, and he thought that he had failed his family because of what he invested in here with Linqto. When the fact of the matter is, he made the right investment. He made successful investments as a father and a husband. He did the right thing. A couple bad actors at the top of Linqto screwed this thing up. Not him, not you. Those of you that invested in this platform, do not beat yourself up. And do not allow any of these clickbait fudsters, narcissistic influencers in the Wall Street Journal to spew a bunch of shit in the name of journalism. It's pathetic. There's a reason why nobody watches you anymore. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me take a step back. Let's answer comments and questions before I proceed. I saw somebody asked about Caleb and Brown being acquired by SwiftX. I will speak on that shortly. Let's go real quick. This is real stuff. And it's so upsetting to me as a father, as a husband, to think I put myself in those shoes and to think about that. What it's like to feel like a failure as a father and a husband, I can't imagine. And to that dad, to anybody else that invests in that platform, I want to echo the comments of John Dean. This is not wrongdoing on you. This is not wrongdoing on any of you guys who made successful investments. Yeah, PolySign went up. Other than that, you probably would have made up on your Ripple equity and Circle equity. Most people that invested in PolySign also invested in other winners on the platform. Lives are being ruined, not because they made a bad investment. You know, this guy didn't take his kid's college savings and invested in a meme coin that went belly up. You didn't invest in an exchange like an FTX, which was a Ponzi scheme. You invested in a platform that was majorly successful but a couple bad apples ruined the bunch. Because in the securities law, in the securities world, that's how it is. If you have one slip up, especially when you're doing these exemptions, the 506B is brought under a very special scrutiny because it's an exemption. It's a Reg D fund in the 506B exemption, which allows you to bring in, and you basically can pool together investments from 35 non-accredited investors. And that's how these SPVs were put together to bring non-accredited in. And so I just have to echo that, because I don't want to see anybody in our community beat themselves up over successful investments that you made. And there is no way for any of us to conduct any due diligence and get this information. And yeah, I want to read your guys' comments and questions. Let's go rapid fire real quick, and then I'm going to proceed. I still have some more to cover. I know tonight's show's going long, but I'm just, you can feel it. You can feel it from me. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I listened to Zach and it made me want to keep going. I don't want to fail my family and you guys as well. %. Just like you guys. I come from nothing, and all I want to do is leave a little something to my children and to maximize my reach into making and helping humanity. That's all I ask God the opportunity for. I don't beg God for anything other than the opportunity to help humanity and to take care of my children, take care of my wife, take care of my kids, and help humanity as much as possible. That's all I ask God for every single night. God, please, at least another decade. Give me another decade. Obviously, I'd like a little bit more. We're going to be able to change a lot of lives. We're going to be able to help a lot of people and 100% build generational wealth for my family. Doing it the right way. Doing it with transparency, with moral and ethics guiding us. Now, just reading comments. Okay. I think I've said my piece on Linqto. If you guys have any other questions, I'll come back to them. I was in the space too. That dude had definitely been through it. This is real life. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this, because with all of this going on with Linqto, we get a press release put out today that Caleb and Brown has been acquired by SwiftX. Now, with all this Linqto stuff going on, our community's on edge. I'm on edge. You can tell I'm on edge. We're all on edge today, right? And then we get this news that Caleb and Brown, a platform that I've just sent a bunch of XRP to. I know a lot of other people have been sending money and using this platform, and we've had nothing but great things out of Caleb and Brown. It's been nothing but great with Caleb and Brown, right? And then today we hear that they've been acquired. And so immediately everybody's bells start going off. You know, all the FUD starts spinning up. And you got all these people now, oh, wow, is this the next Linqto? No, not at all. Not at all. It's not even close. No relation, no association with Linqto. Nothing to do with it at all. And I'm going to read you guys. My findings. So I had a conversation with Jim Bazzani from Caleb and Brown here today. And I want to read you off the summary. I have my notes right here of the call that I had with him. Because basically I told my Discord group, I said, hey guys, I'm going to hop on a call with Jim. If you guys have any questions or concerns, just let me know and I'll get them addressed. But first and foremost, this is business as usual. Nothing is changing in regards to Caleb and Brown, your client experience, you know, from a customer standpoint or perspective, nothing is changing on Caleb and Brown. Okay. So it is true. SwiftX, which is the largest exchange in Australia, purchased Caleb and Brown. Now, the number that Decrypt Media is reporting is 66 million, right? Here's the article right here from Decrypt Media. Australia's SwiftX to acquire Caleb and Brown in record 66 million plus crypto deal. And they're saying that this is the largest M&A deal in Australia to date. But very clearly, let's understand this. Caleb and Brown has been acquired because they are a very successful business with a very unique brokerage model with a bunch of US-based clients, and that's what SwiftX was after. So I've been told, and it states in this article as well too, that SwiftX, large Australian retail exchange, they do have some institutional clients, but mostly retail focused. They're basically the Coinbase of Australia. And I've heard a lot of good things, actually, in the comments that I was reading before I got on here. A lot of good things about SwiftX. But SwiftX only was in Australia, essentially, and maybe New Zealand, too. I'm not quite sure about that. But basically, no exposure to the U.S. market. And so they wanted to buy basically a list of clients in the United States. But in particular, they really were impressed with Caleb and Brown's business model of a brokerage service with personalized brokerage service, institutional grade custody, transparent fees, and the great relationship that we've come to know and love from Caleb and Brown. They were very impressed with that, which is why they've went ahead with this acquisition. But a lot of people had questions. So I want to read off the answers to that. It is business as usual at Caleb and Brown. Nothing will change from the platform or user experience standpoint. Okay? They will not close any accounts. They are still taking on new clients. And if you want to sign up with Caleb and Brown, I have a link down in the description of this video. I'm about to send them more XRP. I'm just full transparency. I'm going to send them more XRP this week. And that's XRP that I plan on trading this bull run, right? Not my long-term holdings, right? They encourage self-custody of your long-term holdings. That's why I like these guys. They actually encourage you to self-custody and secure your long-term holdings if you don't feel comfortable, or if you do feel comfortable doing that yourself. So I don't put all of my XRP and all my crypto on Caleb and Brown. My long-term holdings, I don't play with or touch at all. That's my bag of XRP that I'll probably never sell. But I'm only putting a little bit of my XRP bag on Caleb and Brown because I do plan on taking profit on some XRP that I've made from trading meme coins this bull run. Okay? So they are still taking new clients. Link is up down below. No change in fees. Okay? So the fees are going to remain the same. Insurance through Fireblocks remains the same. So they do have insurance of your assets while they're in custody, while they're being transferred from internal hacks. And I actually asked Jim, I said, Jim, you guys have insurance through Fireblocks, but what about on your platform? And he says that it's basically not very common. You can't get sufficient insurance coverage with that type of brokerage firm, essentially. And I don't want to misstate kind of what Jim explained to me, but basically they have sufficient insurance through Fireblocks, which is where your assets are secured at. And your assets are bankruptcy remote protected. So you are the beneficiary of the account. If Caleb and Brown goes bankrupt or bust, you are the beneficiary of those assets, and those assets will not be tied up in a bankruptcy process at all. Because you are the beneficiary, they are not part of Caleb and Brown's assets. Okay? So no change in fees, insurance through Fireblocks remains the same, bankruptcy remote protection remains the same, and they will also remain their own separate entity And from a client standpoint, it will be exactly the same as before. It will be as if nothing has changed from a client perspective. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask me. Feel free to reach out to Caleb and Brown. They'll be happy to do so. And I can't speak highly enough of the individuals that I've met from their company and the relationship that I've had with them so far, and the feedback that I've heard from all of you guys that put me on to Caleb and Brown. I didn't even know about this platform until you guys started bringing them up. And then I looked into them, started to get familiar, and now they're one of my go-tos. And so I wanted to update everybody in regards to Caleb and Brown, because a lot of people were wondering that. Another point, somebody, and I'm seeing a lot of this, people are concerned with Caleb and Brown because they're in Australia. Well, Jim actually clarified that today. He says, while we're headquartered here in Australia, our U.S. clients fall under our Caleb and Brown U.S. LLC. So they actually have a U.S. entity, and that is where all of the U.S. clients are going to fall under, not under an Australian entity. So for those of you guys that have been worried, and believe me, it was a concern of mine too. We know how authoritarian and crazy Australia government has been. That was a concern for me too. But now we know that they have a U.S. entity that all of the U.S. clients will fall under as well too. So you're in a U.S. entity through your relationship with Caleb and Brown, but then you're also storing the assets at Fireblocks, which is a U.S.-based entity, and is basically the gold standard for institutional grade custody. You have Fireblocks and Anchorage Digital are basically the standard in institutional grade custody right now. The only other comparable would be Ripple Custody and maybe a couple other firms. But at the scale of Fireblocks and Anchorage, there really is nobody else up at that level. Okay? But I thought that was a great point of clarity for many that have had concerns about Caleb and Brown being out of Australia. I get you, but the U.S. clients are going to fall under the Caleb and Brown U.S. LLC. Many of our employees work and are from the United States, and we're about to open up an office in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. So Caleb and Brown is in the United States and is going to be expanding into the United States. Somebody asked some questions here, so I wanted to cover this. The minimum investment amount for buying and selling is 500 USD, but no cost or minimums to transfer your assets over. So this is not where you're going to be trading $20 or $50. All trades are a $500 minimum. Okay. And we do have an easy to use Caleb and Brown portal. You can execute trades either through the portal or through your broker, whatever is your preference. And I've done both. My broker is Jake Boyle, and I've sent him emails and said, hey, Jake, do this. He gets it done. And I've also done it through the portal as well, too. That's where I traded Zebek. And you guys know that story. Our community made millions on Zebek. Great play. And by the way, we're not done making money on Zebek either. I still think that one's going to run too. Not done making money on that one, but we already printed millions in gains on Zebek. More to come. We do require our clients to KYC. The only downside is that they're not available in New York, they're not available in Canada, and they're not available in the UK for now. I would love to see that change, but for the time being, that is the unfortunate part. No New York, no Canada, and no UK, which is not Caleb and Brown's fault. That would be the fault of those communist governments. And then, yes, we offer all of the assets that you listed. And so the person asked about XRP, XLM, HBAR, Quant, XDC, Algo, Render. Yes, all of those are listed. They also have Zebek. That's where I traded Zebek. There's a couple cryptos that I would like to see on Caleb and Brown that they don't have. And I'm actually going to ask Jim about that. I'd like to see them get DAG. I'd like to see them get a couple others too. But I'm going to be talking with Jim about that and see, what their criteria is. The nice thing is when I spoke with Jim and Jake, they have shown an incredible willingness to work with our community. When I asked them about integrating, DeFi, AMMs, yield opportunities, he said that they're open to all of it. They're kind of just waiting to see it rolled out. And then they also want to make sure that the regulations are clear before they pass that on to us. But this is actually why I like working with Caleb and Brown, is because their business is straightforward. All they're doing is spot trading. No futures, no meme coins, no silly stuff, no games, no leverage. It's simple buying and selling spot assets. And so you don't really got to worry about them. This is not a company that's getting themselves over leveraged. This is not a company that's even allowing their clients and customers to get over leveraged. Despite the fact that I like to trade my futures and use a little bit of leverage and play around that way, or I do like to trade XRP meme coins. I think that that's fun. They don't get involved in any of that, but they are looking at approaching DeFi from a more calculated approach to DeFi in a way that will protect folks who want to participate in those opportunities. So that is coming. I know people have been asking about staking on Caleb and Brown. It is coming. But you got to appreciate the fact that their business is just straightforward. And so you have that level of certainty. The one negative that I've seen people mention is their fees appear high, right? On paper, they appear high, 3.5%. But I've mentioned this in the past, and it's worth mentioning again, that when you add in slippage, when you add in trading fees, when you add in withdraw fees and withdraw limits, you'll be surprised to find that even though their fees for trading might be higher than others, when you add up slippage, withdraw fees, withdraw limits, and trading fees into other platforms, compared to just the simple, straightforward fee that they're going to charge you for the trade, Caleb and Brown is actually cheaper than a lot of platforms. And from what I've found so far, better at finding liquidity at the price that you're asking your order to be filled at than other platforms. I've gone through this exercise. I told you guys, I sold XRP on Uphold, Caleb and Brown, and Coinbase. Uphold was the most expensive, Caleb and Brown was second, and Coinbase was first. But the problem with Coinbase, other than the fact that I don't trust Coinbase, is my Coinbase One membership, which I pay $30 a month for, allows my fees to be very low up to the first $10,000 of trading. So my first $10,000 in trades, my fees are basically nothing, which is great. Coinbase doesn't have withdrawal fees or withdrawal limits either. Great. The problem is the problem with Coinbase is they're going to hit you on slippage. And crap, I forgot the other point that I was going to say, actually. I'm trying to think, maybe I'll come back to it. So I was talking about the I just blanked out. I forgot what I was going to mention. Withdrawal fees, slippage. When I go to cash out the big ones, or for those of you guys that want to cash out millions, you're going to be paying the fees over there on Coinbase. When I sold XRP on Coinbase, I only sold about 1,000 XRP, I think. And so that was under my $10,000 limit. So, up to $10,000 in trading, my fees are zero. But over that amount, the fees start to kick in, and they're a little bit more. And so I haven't been able to compare that, trying to trade 50,000 worth of XRP and cash that out. I know that Coinbase doesn't have withdrawal fees or withdrawal limits, but I don't know what the fees would be on Coinbase. So although my initial findings was that Coinbase was cheaper than Caleb and Brown, I was selling $1,000 of XRP, or 1,000 XRP. So I'm going to have to look into Coinbase a little bit further to see what my fees are going to be when I do go to cash out or trade, $50,000 worth of XRP, $100,000 worth of XRP, what that would be. But that's what I like about Caleb and Brown is it's straightforward. You tell them, hey, sell my XRP at $30. They're going to fill your order at $30. You're going to know what the fee is going to be up front. And then after that, you can have that money sent to your bank account. Every time I've withdrawn money from Caleb and Brown, it's at my account in less than 24 hours. No fee, no limit. Straight to my account in less than 24 hours. Okay? But I just wanted to clarify that because I know a lot of people are on edge in our community, justifiably so. And then we all start taking a look at Caleb and Brown, some of us using Caleb and Brown, and then this comes out and we're like, oh crap, what do we got ourselves tied up in now? More corporate raiders coming to take over Caleb and Brown? That is not the case. The entities are going to be separate. It's going to be business as usual. And you can expect the same experience and relationship from the platform that you had in the past going forward. And in fact, they're going to have more resources and money to back them now, right? So hopefully that answers any questions or concerns that you guys had about Caleb and Brown. Okay? All right. Let's go rapid fire Q&A. Let me catch up on super chats. I appreciate everybody for stopping by tonight. Thank you for your support. If you guys haven't already, make sure you've liked this video. Help us out by subscribing, hitting that notification bell. Appreciate you for joining the community. Let's go rapid fire Q&A and let's hit it hard. Thank you. Cameron, thank you for the 2-spot. DEG Constellation update and updated predictions. Yes. It's one of the opportunities that I'm very excited about. I added to my DEG bag last week. So DEG is just over 3 cents right now. I think it's going to 30 to 50 cents this bull run. So you still have a 10x opportunity in front of you conservatively. The deep dive is in my coin review playlist, but I still think that you got a 10 bagger on DEG. Yeah, thank you, Cameron. Christian, thank you for the 10 spot. Hey, Zach, I appreciate your research and information. Are you looking into getting a trust in Wyoming LLC before price hits? Can you share a bit about your exit strategy? So I'm in the process of setting up entities outside of Washington State, which is where I live, because my state has a state capital gains tax now in place. Anything over $250,000 that is outside of a IRA or your personal home, any capital gains that you make outside of those investments, you pay a 7% capital gains tax. Anything over $250,000. So if I go to cash out, $500,000, anything over 250, I'll be paying an extra 7%, and that's not going to happen. So I am looking at setting up entities right now outside of my state. I have not completed this process. I have not decided whether or not I want to do Wyoming. Wyoming is very favorable towards digital assets. The corporate structure and basically the legal standing and respect to LLCs in Wyoming is very strong, which is why many people choose Wyoming. But I've been setting up LLCs for a long time. I mean, I set up my first LLC back in 2015 when I was 21 years old. I set up a LLC for my media company. It's not difficult to set up LLCs. The difficult part, and really it's not terribly difficult, you just need to make sure that you have the right information when it comes to setting up your operating agreement and staying in compliance with your LLC. You don't want anybody to be able to pierce the corporate veil. And so that's where you need to make sure that that is all set up and suffices to stay in compliance and to secure your corporate veil. From a tax standpoint, LLCs are pass-through entities. So don't mistakenly think that just because your crypto's in an LLC doesn't mean that you're not going to pay taxes. The tax burden will pass straight through to you. So you still need legitimate expenses and depreciation, other write-offs to offset that tax liability if you don't want to pay taxes. And so I see that that's kind of one point of confusion that I see some folks think that, oh, if I just put my assets into an LLC, I won't have to pay taxes. That's not necessarily the case. But that's where the trust comes in. And so, yeah, I'm in the process. I'll be most likely setting up a revocable trust. But as far as my exit strategy, I plan on exiting 80 to 90% of all altcoins that I hold this bull run. Once again, I'll repeat that. Out of all of the altcoins that I hold, I don't consider XRP to be an altcoin, right? So not including XRP, but all of my other cryptos, I plan on selling 80 to 90% of those bags this bull run. None of them have proven themselves to be long-term holds for me because they lack sufficient adoption and traction within their ecosystem. With XRP, I recorded an exit strategy, and it's actually still up on my Patreon if you want to watch it, but it is from September of last year. I have changed it up somewhat, but I don't plan on selling more than 50% of my XRP ever. I've been able to grow my XRP bag significantly trading the XRP memes, and I plan on mostly just selling off that XRP this bull run. So, you know, the quick answer is that's what my exit strategy is. Off XRP that I've made from memes, hold on to all the rest of my XRP, wait for DeFi and yield, and as that comes, I will delegate small portions of my portfolio to those opportunities, and I will ladder in positions on those as I, you know, see more of a track record come from said platforms. I have started to work with KKOS Lawyers. That's Mark Kohler's law firm. And if you guys want to take a look at their platform, they are one of the leaders in the space in estate planning for setting up these entities. And so that's who I'm starting to work with right now. But I'll let you guys know more about that process as it proceeds. But they have all of their services listed directly on their website. You can get entity formation for, you know, $1,000. You could get a trust set up for, you know, starting at $3,000. But they're just one option. But I will just continue to reiterate that you need professionals on your team, right? Whether you go with your local hometown attorney and CPA that you have known, if they, you know, understand digital assets and can suffice in the services that you need, then go ahead, sure. I don't think that everybody needs to, you know, hire the top tier law firms and estate planners and set up the most elaborate corporate structures and trusts. A lot of people are putting the cart before the horse, I'll be honest with you, just in what I'm seeing out there. A lot of people who don't even have $10,000 invested in crypto are worried about getting an LLC set up. Don't bother. I don't think that we need to waste our time. And once again, even though your assets are in an LLC, when you do sell them, you're going to have a tax hit. And so you're going to need legitimate write-offs, whether that be business expenses, depreciation, or other legal write-offs to reduce that liability. So please consider that, which is why you want a CPA on your team that's active. I wouldn't encourage you guys. You can use TurboTax and file your taxes yourself if you just got a W-2 and straightforward with your investments. You're not a big trader. You could file it yourself, but where you're going to want to hire a CPA accountant to be on your team is to have proactive strategies to mitigate your tax burden before that tax bill hits. That's where that's going to come in. Okay. Mr. P, thank you for the 5 spot. I bought a small bag of Axelar. What do you think about it? Deep Dive is going to be dropping this week. I put off the Stronghold and Axelar Deep Dive because of all the Ripple case news that was hitting last week. That was such a hot issue that happened last week with the case ending and everything. So I put off the Stronghold and the Axelar Deep Dives, but they will be dropping this week. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. What do I think about Cardano? Lack of adoption from institutions, strong community, ecosystem has a little bit cooking, but the investment opportunity doesn't jump out at me. I still don't think that it goes above $10 this bull run. So, you still have a decent opportunity in there, I think, but it's just not one that I get overly excited about. That's how I feel about it. What do I think that AVAX is going to do this bull run? Mr. P, I wish I could answer you on that one. I don't know. I don't pay attention to AVAX. They focused on gaming. Their community was kind of hot last bull run, but I worry that that engagement has been dying out, but I haven't been tuned in with the AVAX community. Also, once again, not an opportunity that jumps out at me. Co-MP Lego, thank you for that super chat. Zeus Fox Knight, thank you for the 5 spot. Should we sell XRP directly to U.S. institutions without registering it as a security with the SEC? What do you all think? Yeah, and that's the thing is that if you have a simple purchase agreement, you don't have an investment contract. Just like Ripple's now selling to institutions is the same way that I'm selling XRP to you. You're going to give me a few bucks. I'm going to give you an XRP. That's a done deal. That's not an investment contract in any way, form, or fashion. And I'm so glad that this case is over, so I don't have to talk about injunctions. I don't have to, break down this case. I don't have to read legal documents on this case anymore. We won't have all this confusion about injunctions and legal proceedings. I'm so excited that it's finally coming to an end. 1970 Legend, thank you for the 50 spot, brother. I greatly appreciate you. And I think that I answered your question about Caleb and Brown being purchased by SwiftX, right? I did cover that, and I appreciate you for that super chat. It's business as usual. It's a testimony to how successful and hot Caleb and Brown's business is. A lot of high net worth individuals choose Caleb and Brown for the reasons that I mentioned. You get transparent fees. When it comes to moving around big boy and big girl money, you're going to want a brokerage service that's going to provide transparent fees. Nobody else is providing institutional grade custody for free. Nobody's providing institutional grade custody if you have less than $1 million in crypto. And so they're unique in that offering, along with their level of service and personalized brokerage service. Nobody else is picking up the phone to talk to you on a 24/7 basis like Caleb and Brown is. Nobody else in the industry is doing that. So they're unmatched in their customer service and in their offering of institutional grade custody. And by the way, I asked Jim from Caleb and Brown straight up today about how they work that. And he says that they negotiate their fee, their custody fee that they cover based off of their assets under management. Now, this is a company of 65 employees with 2 billion assets under management. So, it's not a huge firm, but they've already seen tremendous success because they're trusted by high net worth individuals, which equates to the 2 billion assets under management. And that's how, because they have so much assets under management, it allows them to negotiate their fees on fire blocks. And they have made the business decision to cover that themselves and not pass that on to the clients. So that's how that's done. Okay, that's all of our super chats. Let's go rapid fire Q&A. I want to make sure that I get everybody's questions answered, whether it be Linqto, Caleb and Brown, XRP to the moon. You guys let me know what you want to know. What do I think about XRP hitting 1 to 2,000 this year? I don't believe that it will. So for XRP to reach $100, I believe that we would have to see 50 billion to 150 billion of net inflows into XRP. Totally possible. Possible this year? Sure, but it's a very, very far stretch. So I think that we will see $100 XRP eventually, because I do think that we will see 50 billion, 100 billion, and more inflows into XRP, but not yet. I'm here for it. I would love to be wrong. I would love for you guys to be able to roast me and come back and say, Zach, we told you XRP was going to $1,000 this year. I would love for that. I will let, I don't know. I don't know what I will allow to happen, but you guys can make fun of me. You guys can say whatever you want. And we'll be making fun of each other on your yacht when XRP goes to $1,000 in that event. Okay. So we'll have a yacht party on your boat I'll come and you guys can all roast me about how I was wrong about that one. But yeah, thoughts on Robinhood futures? Everybody's joining the party. Everybody wants to join the party. What crypto net worth would you start pursuing LLCs and trusts? You know, it's not so much of how much your assets are worth as to what purpose are you creating the entity for, right? Many people create an LLC for their business when they have nothing to their name. When it comes to, you know, the number, I would say when you start to have tens of thousands of dollars, you could start to have that conversation. But, you know, less than 50,000, I wouldn't really, I would spend more time. What people worry about is estate planning when they don't even have an estate to really plan for that is more than 50,000, 100,000. You don't have an estate that is worth, you know, paying, you know, 5 to 10 to, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to set up some plan for an estate that doesn't exist. And by the way, you'll have plenty of time to do this. It's, you know, we don't need to rush the process. I want to urge that caution too. Catching up on comments real quick. ETF multiplier thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I believe that conservatively, if we do get the, you know, I'm not gonna pin down, oh, this is gonna be the multiplier from the ETFs, because it depends on how aggressive the inflows are. But the Bitcoin ETF saw 4 billion inflows day one. If you saw that for XRP day one, I mean, you'd probably be looking at XRP jumping to $10 right away, at least. If we do get the 5 to 10 billion of inflows, I think that we see $10 to $20 XRP. If we get 10 to 20 billion of inflows, I think that we see $20, $30 XRP. Okay. I've heard a guy say XRP to 30 million per coin. Is he mentally ill? That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. XRP to 30 million. You heard it here. What's your guess on XRP price on Christmas Day? 1970 legend. That's a good one. Christmas Day ETFs will be live. I mean, we should be at double digits. We will be above $5. I'll give you the over on $5. That's such a soft, conservative answer. But you know everybody's clipping me up right now because they're waiting to come back Christmas Day. Zach, you said I got the over on $5 by Christmas, and that's ridiculously conservative. I'd say above $10 though. Will we get our Ripple shares from Linqto? That's the big thing about the bankruptcy process. Is that the shares of the company, they could get taken away. If the judge forces a complete liquidation and a fire sale, it's not guaranteed that clients would be able to get their shares of the companies. So that's why we're so concerned and pissed off about what's happening with Linqto. So somebody asked to see the red folder. It's still on my desk right now. We still I know people thought that this was going away. This ain't going away. I mean, I want to put this thing away. I don't want to have to bring this thing out, but it's still here on my desk right now for the time being. And did I opt into the AI tech airdrop on Uphold? No. I didn't get the Zebek drop on Uphold. I don't have more than 50,000 on Uphold. I do have a considerable bag on Uphold, but not 50,000 XRP. So I didn't get my Zebek airdrop, but I guess it was pretty small. And then AI tech coin, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't care for any AI coins right now. I think that the space is overhyped. What will ISO do for the price of XRP on July 14th? I don't think it'll do anything. In fact, it could be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So I'd actually watch for a dip on that day. I don't concern myself with ISO dates anymore. I just buy, good utility assets with companies who are sending ISO compliant messages using the crypto. Remember, the crypto itself is not ISO compliant. It's companies like Ripple that are sending XRP transactions in an ISO compliant way. It's not XLM that's ISO compliant. It's Stellar that's creating a payment flow with ISO 222 standard messaging applied. So I don't concern myself with ISO dates. I've been stacking the hell out of these. I will continue to stack the hell out of these until we launch off into the next leg up of price appreciation. I'm done acquiring XRP, XLM, XDC. I'm not really acquiring any more of those top three. I do acquire more XRP from trading meme coins, but I'm not just trading fiat for XRP currently. I'm not buying XRP above $2 with dollars. Do you think that this Linqto fiasco will affect the price of XRP? No. But well, I guess let me be careful here for a second. It could have an impact on more people selling XRP at lower prices, because if folks are not receiving their profits that they should have earned from Ripple, Circle, and other investments, and say they just get their money back but not the shares, then that might make folks be like, okay, I was supposed to pocket another $500,000 off of my Linqto investments, but because I'm not, I need to make up for it somewhere else. So I don't think that the Linqto news is going to drive XRP price down now, but I think that it's going to make more people sell XRP at lower prices and sell more XRP than they wanted to, which, by the way, all comes back to more damages against the XRP community. As I said, I'm sick of our community being attacked. Can I sue Linqto for not giving me my initial investment? It's very, very likely that you will at the very least get that back. But that's not what people want back, right? People don't want their money back. People want their shares. So I'm not worried about folks getting their money back. But John Deaton will be joining the bankruptcy process, it sounds like. It's like we're going down this road again, right? We've been here before. We're going down it again. I'm hopeful that John Deaton will, represent the XRP community well. And other Linqto clients that aren't necessarily part of the XRP family, but obviously many of them were. But I hope and pray that John will, help us get the best outcome. But it's going to be a community effort. And it's interesting because Deaton is a observer of the board, I think is his current spot. But I'm observing myself. I'll just say that. I'm observing myself. I received a core airdrop. Is it good to hold? Yeah. I think that Corium will do all right. I own a little bit of Corium, I think. I'm more bullish on Sologenic, though. Any guess when the SEC drops their appeal along with Ripple in the next 30 days? LEET says, love the red folder. Thank you. Mark Shepard, thank you for the 2 spot. What difference will the big, beautiful bill make? It'll add $5 trillion to our deficit. It's a lot of money printing. It's very inflationary. It's very good for assets. It's yet to be seen, I think, how great it'll be for Main Street economy, but I worry that it'll bring back another wave of inflation. And so I am very concerned in that regard. But as far as those of us that have assets, I think it'll be very great. Somebody asked me about cold storage wallets. My favorite right now is Decent. I have them linked up down below. Decent wallets. They're my favorite right now. No, Mike asked, should Kimes and DAI get hit with a class action? They made buco money shilling. They disclosed everything. They brought a great opportunity. Once again, there's a couple bad actors at the top. I don't know what all they knew. And just because they may have been a part of marketing campaigns and getting the word out, etc., that's how you grow a business in the real world. There's a bunch of people who have never ran a business in their life or helped create any significant value in their life, commenting as if, oh, wow, these aggressive marketing campaigns and all this and that. That's how you get deals done. That's how you close deals. And you got a bunch of commentators who've never been there before. They've never done deals at that level. I believe I'm friends with DAI. I'm friends with Brad. I respect them tremendously. And I can honestly, they have 6 figures each in the platform that they could potentially lose out on as well. Now, that's just what they invested. I don't know what all they've bought, but I would assume that they've bought a bunch of Ripple and other companies that they probably have millions of unrealized profit themselves. So they're going to lose in this situation just like everybody else. And any influencer that does have sponsors, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you disclose it from a legal standpoint. From a moral and ethical standpoint, I don't think that they did anything wrong either, unless there's something that I don't know about. But I hung out with these guys while hanging out with Linqto guys, and we had conversations together about how, this platform was going to democratize finance and all of the great things that it was going to do. And I saw no indication, and from my conversations with those 2 gentlemen, I don't think that they saw any indication of wrongdoing, of blatant wrongdoing. And like I said, people want to point fingers. At the end of the day, when you invest in private equity, when you invest in anything, that's a decision that you made, and you have to be accountable for that, right? So I'll be honest, I don't think that anybody has a case against them. I don't think so, and I think that it's misused energy. They were sponsored. They disclosed that. That's the game. It's like, this got brought up when FTX went bust, and the thing is with some of those influencers, they didn't disclose that they were being paid by FTX. And that really brought into question from an influencer standpoint, that relationship with companies. And basically the law, from my understanding, is as long as you're disclosing your sponsorships and all of that, there's no wrongdoing. And once again, people want to point fingers now, but we also have to recognize we're talking about investments that our community made, where we're in profit by billions. And this is being ruined by a couple individuals at Linqto that broke the law. I don't believe that they're at fault. I know a lot of people are attacking them right now, and I'm choosing to defend them based off of my interaction and conversations with them. There's nothing that I saw, and there's nothing that I believe that leads me to believe that they knew anything like that was going on. And in fact, I will say this: when I say that I reached out to people working with Linqto to bring up the fact that, hey, they started marketing these, non-accredited investors can invest here publicly. I did go to those gentlemen amongst a couple other influencers as well. And I said, hey guys, I've recently been looking into this. We got to be careful here. And Brad and DAI were two guys that I went to, and I had a great conversation with both of them about this. And they just said, hey, we want to make sure that, nobody's breaking the law. We had that conversation about making sure that Linqto wasn't doing anything, about making sure that others in the space that were raising private equity weren't doing the same thing. We talked about how we, wanted to see more of this in our community. Brad was talking about getting more developers to the XRP Vegas conference so that they could get exposure for their businesses and their products and their services, and that our community would have the opportunity to invest in them. So I think that these guys have have always had the best of intentions. Now, if they're not your favorite influencer or YouTuber, sure, okay, right? I sure, we all have our favorite influencers or our go-to YouTubers. So if you don't like them in that regard, sure, that's fine. But I think that there's a lot of misuse of energy being directed at trying to point fingers at them or other influencers, when, as long as nobody was privy to the wrongdoing, I can't see how they would be at fault here. But is XRP custody safe with Caleb and Brown compared to the exchanges? I would say that it is better than the exchanges, because with the exchanges, you're gonna be an account that's commingled with other clients. So, for example, on Coinbase has like dozens of XRP wallet addresses with billions of XRP. And so your XRP and my XRP are in the same XRP account, and we are creditors. We would be exposed to creditors of Coinbase in a bankruptcy process. So you are in better security, you're in segregated accounts, and you are always going to be the beneficiary of said accounts working with Caleb and Brown. So if Caleb and Brown goes bust, you have no exposure. Your accounts are yours. You're the beneficiary of those accounts. So you have bankruptcy, insurance protection. On top of that, you're in a segregated account, not commingled with others. I've come to find that if you want to make money yourself, you need to bring a lot of value to other people. And my mentor Dan Pena says, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, we'll do it. That's what I use to guide me, and that's why I've set up my platform in a way where nobody controls me. I don't have any sponsors because I've been concerned about liability risk and just, you can get affiliated. And even if you don't break a law, it can end up just being a bad look. But I also don't want any sponsor telling me to say this or that. And so I've never been in that position. And thankfully, I've been in a position where I didn't need to have sponsors to run this platform. I've been able to make money doing this because people respect me and they trust me. And my community knows that if one of my community resources messes around, they're going to find out. They know. And trust me, we got some people that they do not want me talking about their platform. We got some people that want me to shut up. And for the most part, I will play nice. But when you come for the XRP community, and furthermore, forget XRP, when you come for good, hardworking people who are just trying to take care of their families, in my opinion, it is my duty and obligation to do what I can to use my platform to speak out against that. And I will always do so, no matter what the cost is. If I have to drop one of my affiliates, even if, I'm making money from that platform, but they start to do something that I don't agree with, I don't even have to think about it. And I really haven't had any scenarios like that pop up because I already do a pretty good job of vetting who we work with. And I turn down checks all the time. I've never taken a check, period, full stop, whether it be from crypto companies or anybody else. So that's been my approach. Atlantic Living says, Zach, I got married today. No joke. We need appreciation to pay for the celebration. Brother, I think that some appreciation's coming right now. I do. I went long XRP. I'm not scared one bit. I understand what's happening. The tailwinds behind us from a fundamental perspective are tremendous. We've never seen anything like it. Literally, we haven't had stablecoin legislation passed in this country. We are about to get market structure. We've never seen anything like this big, beautiful bill. We have finally come to the end of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. We are about to get XRP spot ETFs. We have not had XRP DeFi. It's about to explode. We have crazy people putting 50,000 XRP into meme coins and NFTs. All of this motion, activity, momentum adds to our fundamental thesis of XRP going to double digits with ease this bull run. And my targets of $20 to $30 will have been achieved by Q3 of next year. Stand firm. I stand firm in that prediction. I believe it's a conservative prediction. And we could actually see a lot more, but I like to stay safe. I like to, err on the side of conservative and cautious with my predictions. Thank you for answering my questions about Caleb and Brown. You're welcome. Zach, on Tether, with the Genius Act demanding cash and treasury backing, could that force Tether to overhaul its model or lose key markets, potentially destabilizing its 157 billion market cap? Yes. Yeah. Tether, I question their ability to come into compliance with that because they've already openly refused coming into compliance with MiCA, and they've cited the lack of liquidity and stability of the European banking system. And I know that they feel the same way about the US banking system. And rightfully so, there is legitimate concerns with putting billions and tens of billions of dollars in these banks. But Ripple found a way around that. And this is why I think that RLUSD will easily surpass Tether, is because Ripple relies on their own custody platform, a trust based in New York that has been given the full green light and is in complete compliance with the law, has already been signed off by the gold standard of state regulators, the New York Department of Financial Services. So Ripple, they're not making excuses like the CEO of Tether is. He has a list of excuses for why he can't come into compliance with MiCA or the Genius Act. Ripple is already in compliance and is already over collateralized. You don't get excuses from Ripple, you get results. You don't get excuses from Ripple, you get industry standard. You don't get excuses from Ripple, you get unmatched transparency. That's what you get from Ripple. You get excuses from Paolo, CEO of Tether. Yeah. They could come into compliance, and we'll see, but they will be exposing themselves to the banking system in doing so because they don't own a trust company like Ripple does. One of the many advantages that Ripple has in the stablecoin race is they don't have to rely on counterparties to store their collateral. Circle doesn't have that benefit. Tether doesn't have that benefit. Would it make sense for Ripple to buy USDT? I don't think so. There's nothing that Tether has from a licensing standpoint. From an asset standpoint, sure, they have 150 billion market cap, but I think that, with Ripple acquiring Hidden Road, they're going to be settling $3 trillion using RLUSD as collateral for that. So I don't think that Ripple's worried about the 150 billion head start that Tether has. I think that Ripple looks at that and says, that's cute. That's cute. That's a good first goal for us to achieve. I think that that's how Ripple looks at Tether. Does Ripple need a black swan to flip the switch? I don't see any big black swans in front of us. I mean, we already went through the global conflict scenarios. Unless that comes back with a significant return, I guess there still are big black swan scenarios that could play out, like cyber attacks, etc. Our market is so resilient, though. So many people have just become desensitized to everything that could be thrown at us. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people think that. They think that everything has to crash before it can go up. I don't necessarily see that being the case. Like that has to happen. Could it happen? Sure. You prepare the same no matter what. You're going to stack these assets, and you also want to make sure that you have blackout barter if systems go down. You want to make sure that you have your essentials, you're prepped out, all of that. We talk about that in our Discord group. But, you need to make sure that you have your big bag of these utility assets before that happens, regardless. Whether or not we get the black swan that takes everything down before we get that significant price appreciation or not, you prepare the same way. So as long as you're prepared, no matter whether or not they black swan us, hit us with the fake alien invasion, no matter what they hit us with, you're prepared. So he says, Zach is cool. You can tell when he is pissed. He is one of us. I'm not happy with this whole deal. I'm not. I'm not happy with this new executive team. I'm not happy with the CEO. I'm not happy with Sullivan and Cromwell. I'm not happy with the SEC. I'm not happy with Gary Gensler. I'm not happy with the Wall Street Journal. I'm not happy with a select group of influencers who are more focused on pointing fingers and who was right. I was right. Give me attention. Give me clicks. This is not about clicks, for crying out loud. People have lost out potentially on billions of dollars, and you're worried about some clicks. So to say I'm a little pissed off might be an understatement. But Zach knows something about the aliens. Yeah. I think that David Schwartz might be an alien. I don't know. What am I happy about? I'm happy that our community, for the most part, is sticking together. Just like John Dean said, the enemy of our community right now is division. We do not need division. What we need to focus on is how do we protect our community? Not just with this Linqto issue, all of the DeFi that's coming, all of the new projects that are being launched on the XRP ledger. In fact, I'll give credit to Vet and a few other developers on the XRP ledger and people that looked into a new project that showed up. There's a new project on the XRP ledger. I'm not going to name the name of the company. But basically they created a copy of the First Ledger platform, which is an interface for the XRP ledger DEX. And so basically they created a copy of it, but they were having people enter your seed phrase into their platform to access it. So they were literally making people compromise your keys to access their platform, which was just an interface for the XRP ledger DEX. There is no reason to enter your seed phrase in anywhere, right, other than when you're trying to access your wallet. You should never give your seed phrase to anybody. That's like the number one cardinal sin in crypto, is giving your seed phrase to somebody else. You should never do that under any circumstances. And this new project came out with basically just the carbon copy of First Ledger. And they, were having everybody give up their seed phrase for this platform, completely compromising your XRP wallet. And they didn't make it more than about a few hours before the community had completely exposed them. And they came up with some excuses that were BS and nonsense. But that's the beautiful thing about the XRP community, is we already are very diligent. We have a lot of discernment, and we have a lot of people looking out for our people. And as soon as bad actors come in, they get exposed right away, and they get put on blast. And that's why the scammers don't really hang out in the XRP community. If they show up, they don't last long, because you got guys like me and others that will just put them on the spot right away. So a huge shout out to Vet and others. I'm talking about Horizon, just so I know. I don't want to cause any confusion. I'm talking about the platform was Horizon. Okay? Just as quickly as they came about, they basically went belly up, because everybody started to realize, wait, yeah. And just so everybody's good, all the new people listening to me tonight, never under any circumstances share your seed phrase with anybody. Anybody. Okay? Zach, do I have any foreign currencies? No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I was going to say I have a couple leftover pesos when I went to Mexico, and I think I might have a couple Canadian bucks, a little Canadian funny money, but that's all the foreign currency I have. I don't have any dinar, dong, zim. I don't have any. Many people in the community do. What do I think of using iTrust? I've heard nothing but good things from iTrust. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things from them. I haven't started working with them, but I have been looking at their platform. They look very reputable. But yeah, guys, I've gone long. Before I say anything else that'll get me in trouble tonight, I'm gonna shut this one down. Mark Shepard says Zach is our daddy. That's funny because I'm younger than a lot of you guys, and I love how diverse our community is in age, in background, and experiences. We got such a diverse community, and I learned so much from you guys too. So huge shout out to everybody that tuned in tonight. I appreciate your support. If you haven't already, let's make sure that we like this video. All of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. I appreciate your support. I will be back tomorrow with another update. I hope everybody's going to be enjoying their 4th of July week. I think that we're not only going to be seeing fireworks for 4th of July, but some fireworks in the cryptocurrency space, at least if you're positioned correctly, and I think that our community is. So I'll wrap up by saying God bless all of you guys. Stay safe out there. If you have anything else, just reach out at zachrector.com, and we will see you guys in the next one, okay? Have a good night, everybody. God bless. Thank you.